My name is Bond.
James Bond. James Bond.
Tell me what you know, James Bond.
He'll light the fuse on any explosive situation and be a danger to himself and others.
I have friends call me James Bond.
Your mama.
Got your attention.
British secret agent James Bond 007 infiltrates a North Korean military base where Colonel Moon is illegally trading weapons for African conflict diamonds. Moon's right-hand man Zhao is contacted by an unknown source, revealing Bond's true identity. Moon tries to take out Bond, but Bond escapes and a hovercraft chase ensues. Bond takes out Moon, but is captured by North Korean soldiers and the Colonel's father, General Moon. After 14 months of captivity, Bond is traded for Zhao. Bond is recovered but is stripped of his license to kill. But Bond escapes, checks into his usual suite, and makes contact with Chinese intelligence, who tip off Bond that Zhao is in Havana. Arriving in Cuba, Bond makes contact with Jinx, and the two feast like there's no tomorrow. Bond investigates a gene therapy clinic where he discovers Zhao undergoing DNA reconstructuring. Zhao escapes, but leaves behind a pendant which leads Bond to a cache of diamonds, which have a connection to businessman Gustav Graves. At the Blades Club in London, Bond makes contact with Graves, along with his assistant Miranda Frost. Bond and Graves cross swords, but Bond is invited to Graves' party in Iceland. After a visit to Q Branch and getting a very unlikely gadget, Bond makes off to Gustav Graves' ice palace. At a reception party, Bond runs into Jinx, and Gustav Graves announces the launch of his new satellite Icarus. Bond does a little reconnaissance work, and an undercover Miranda Frost helps Bond avoid detection. James Bond infiltrates Gustav Graves' command center and finds Jinx in peril. A fight ensues and Bond rescues Jinx. Bond confronts Graves, and Frost reveals herself as the traitor. Bond escapes, something happens with a satellite, some kind of parasurfing goes on, then Bond returns to the base. Jinx is captured, there's a car chase on the ice, Bond gets the better of Zhao, and rescues Jinx. Bond and Jinx have joined forces, sneak aboard Gustav Graves' cargo plane. Gustav Graves is now RoboCop. Jinx gets into a fight with Miranda Frost. Bond does something with lightning, and gets the better of Gustav Graves. Bond and Jinx get into a helicopter that falls out of a plane, which starts up right before it hits the ground, because that would actually happen. And James Bond and Jinx go off to engage in a shit ton of really cringy, groany double entendres. Written by Neil Purvis and Robert Wade, 2002's Die Another Day.
Yeah, this is a real doozy from Purvis and Wade, huh? Oh my God!
The untapped talents of Purvis and Wade. Just so we can start off with a positive. Mm-hmm. My one positive for this movie is I think it's probably the best post Fleming title. I think Die Another Day is a great title because it's got that kind of Fleming feel to it. It's got die in the title, but it sort of has like a double meaning. You live to die another day. That's a kind of a classic expression. So I think the title is really good.
No, I agree with that. And honestly, this movie starts out fine. For a movie that, has a notorious surfing scene, I think the surfing at the beginning of the film is great. You could tell that was shot for real.
Yeah.
And, you got your David Arnold thing. I'm not crazy about the bullet coming at you, but at least we get a gun barrel.
Yeah.
And that whole part of the beginning is fine. And, they have the chase on the hovercrafts and all that. Good stuff. I mean, it's, there's some, as the movie progresses, there's some directorial flourishes I'm not crazy about. They like to do the speed ramp thing in this movie.
Ugh.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the slow mo.
Yeah, which I'm not crazy about. But I was like,
Yeah.
okay, they're going in this direction where Bond's kind of, he's been captured, which I didn't expect. I didn't expect him to get captured when I first saw this. I was like, okay, this is an interesting direction. And he's being held prisoner for, I think, was it 10 months or something? And,
14 months, I think they
14,
say.
Is it 14?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a long time.
And
Anyway.
interesting that they could, like, I kind of wonder, like, is there a reason behind the numbers? You know, like, does 14 months represent
you know
something?
what? It just occurred to me is why. Because you have all that gene therapy stuff to make that believable. For him to take
Yeah.
the 14 months, because he's got to do his whole Rupert Graves thing. And he also has to be established
Rupert
as
Graves?
What's that?
Rupert Graves?
Is it Rupert Graves? Shit, did I screw? You got to keep that in, aren't you?
Gustav Graves.
Gustav Graves. What am I confusing here?
Rupert Murdoch?
Rupert Murdoch. Hello.
Well, I mean, I can see the connection
I like
between
that
Rupert
name
Murdoch
better.
and.
All right, so Gustav
There
Graves.
you go.
Yeah, so you get him established. You know, you have to have. That's right. That's why he's in there that long. It's a story thing because they have to get. He's got to become Gustav Graves.
Yeah.
There you go.
I will say this. I think this movie is kind of, when people, if you sum it up in one sentence, people will sort of say it's the best of times and worst of times, because the beginning starts off so great and then it devolves into, you know, comic book silliness. I frankly think the people are very generous when they say that the beginning part is really good. It's not terrible, but just not nearly as good as I think some people say. I like the idea that he gets captured, but the intro, that whole pre-titles, is kind of silly and comic booky. The surfing part, again, I watch this film and I say, okay, you got surfing, you have sword fighting. I feel like I can see people in the writer's room saying, okay, what hasn't James Bond done yet? And this was sort of all they can come up with, was these two things that we still hadn't gotten around to yet, and probably with good reason.
It's probably like a J.J. Abrams think tank.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Oh, we never seen the Enterprise underwater.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we never saw James Bond surfing, but why would James Bond surf? It's just,
Yeah.
I kind of felt like, you could have had a scuba scene. We haven't seen that in forever. But
Oh, so you don't like the notion of him surfing?
Not really.
Oh,
I mean,
okay, all right.
Yeah, I mean, like seriously, do you picture James Bond hanging 10 a lot? I don't.
I mean, it's an extreme sport, kind of, sort of. So I don't have a problem with it. I thought, hey, why not? I think they did it. I kind of disagree with you here because I think they did it here in kind of a cool way. And one of the, I mean, I'm gonna when we go down the road here, we're gonna really take some pot shots. But I'm gonna be nice here up at the front. I think that, like I said, there's some directorial things I don't like in the opening part of it, but overall, I think it's pretty good. And the hovercraft thing is like something we've never seen before, so I was down with that.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I mean, but I remember watching that when it came out, and I think my brother was there, and he's kind of rolling his eyes, saying like, "See, like, why do they got to be silly? Like, everything just blows up." And I'm like, "Well, it's a minefield, it's a minefield." And but there was times when it was sort of flipping off, like the thing would flip off and explode or whatever. Not terrible, but like it already sort of had this kind of tongue-in-cheek feel to it already. It just kind of quirky and odd. Plus, I don't like the supporting characters in this. I don't like this guy Zhao. I'm pretty sure.
I'll be honest with you. I like Zhao.
He doesn't do much for me. I mean, like, he isn't he like he's in the Fast and Furious movies, I think.
Oh, is he really?
I'm pretty sure. I could be just totally wrong. But I'm pretty sure he's done that or something very similar. One of the odd things about this film is that everybody around James Bond is so much younger than Pierce Brosnan, and I kind of felt like that really stuck out for me, and I thought that was kind of a mistake. Like, I always try to go back to Octopussy for how you age the actor correctly, keep him surrounded by people who are sort of contemporary in age. This one, they kind of made that mistake. Like, they have people with him who are just too young, and it's not that Brosnan's even like old at this point, but but again, if you err on the side of youth for your supporting characters, it makes him look old. So I felt like this Zhao guy was like, I mean, like too young, too good looking, kind of modelish looking. So I didn't really buy him. The young Moon character is fine, but then later, I mean, like Miranda Frost is a little young. So I mean, and then the Gustav Graves character. I mean, it's like seriously, this guy, when they do the sword fight thing, he's wearing like a tight tank top because he's in really good shape, and Bond looks like he's wearing long underwear.
I don't like that sword scene anyway. That tone. I mean, I almost want to say at the movie when he comes back into the fold, the MI6s, that's when the movie starts to fail for me.
Yeah.
But it does story wise, but I just don't like that action. I think that sword scene's too amped up for what it is. It's just too.
Yes. Right. They're trying
it should
to
be more
this,
subtle.
Right, they're trying to dial this up to 11, and that's Lee Tamahori for sure. I mean, right, you could have had something. I mean, it's like I totally agree with you. It starts off nice little regular fencing, then they grab these bigger swords, then they grab bigger swords, then they grab samurai swords, then they grab these like Conan the Barbarian swords, and they're wailing at each other. It's like, come on, like, are you seriously? So that's what I mean. And again, I like the idea of it. Like, this is sort of like a, it's like, it starts off on the right foot. Like, it's a gentleman's contest, kind of almost sort of classic Fleming in a way. It's a little more, like, I mean, this is like a club in London where they fence. So I don't mind it, but but then it just kind of goes nutty. And it's like, what are you guys trying to do here? Like, I'm like, they put it on steroids and dial it up to 11, and it just gets real carried away, and it kind of loses the impact it would have had.
I agree. Like you said, I actually prefer Will Yun Lee's performance as Moon, as opposed to Toby. Is it Steffens or Stevens? Toby Stevens.
I assume Stevens.
Toby Stevens. I gotta say. Worst villain in Bond series, for me. I just
really?
I do not like his performance. I think this goes to the director, really. I think he's way over the top, and I like over the top performances like Jack Nicholson in The Shining or James Cagney in White Heat, but here it's just way over the top. It just doesn't work. And it's he always plays every scene like he's always like he's got peanut butter stuck on his upper lip, and he's always got that little sneer, and really after a while it just like, oh, I can't stand it anymore. It goes from being a fun villain to be just some I don't like. I like the other guys, and that's another thing. Those guys are supposed to be the same person. I don't see any similarities to those actors.
Yeah,
not really in height, mannerisms. It's like those guys didn't even get together and take notes on each other. It's like like, oh, I'm gonna do this, or I'm gonna have every now and then I'm gonna scratch my neck or something. They don't do any of that. They seem like two completely different actors, which they are, and I think it's terrible.
it probably It would have been. They probably should have done something where there was like an actual tell, like you said, like they both scratch their nose or do something, and gives him away a little bit or gives a clue. I'll tell you what, I kind of did like Toby Stevens in this. I thought he did a pretty good job. I think the out that they give themselves, like when he's over the top. He says later, "Oh, I modeled Gustav Graves after you, and you're this, That
what is
that? I forget exactly what he says.
That British swagger or something like that. Yeah.
So, I mean, I suppose you could argue that he's intentionally exaggerated. I thought he was fine. I didn't mind him at all. I thought he did a pretty good job at what he was there to do. I mean, he's supposed to be this pompous British aristocrat socialite, Yeah, I didn't mind him at all, but I could certainly see what you're saying.
But I don't know. There's no similarity to him and Lee's performance.
Yeah.
They're totally different, and they're just not. I don't know. I'm not seeing it, man. And I don't know. It's like that could have been fun, you know. It could have been. It's like, remember that movie Face Off, and then you had Travolta and Cage, and then they were kind of playing each other a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
That was fun.
Yeah.
There's none of that here.
Right. Well, yeah, no, I get you. It was kind of a missed opportunity in that respect. It literally just feels like that guy, Colonel Moon, he's in the pre-titles, he goes away, that's it, and now we just have a new villain. I can't disagree with that.
And that whole I guess that gene therapy thing, I guess that's another 15 minutes into the future thing. This whole movie's like more like 30 minutes.
Yes, yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, and for me, but I was, you know what? I was like, okay, I'm with this movie. You know, when they, I was like, okay, Bond's on his own. He was in that. Okay, that was interesting. He got captured and he was a prisoner for 14 months, and now he's suspected of MI6. They don't know. You know, they even have that one scene where there's actually a good scene between him and M in this. You know, when he's in that hospital or that secure facility, when he has a beard and everything still, and they have a really good scene. About, and then she comes in, you know, she comes into the room, like she still trusts him. I mean, that's some good stuff. And I even liked him going to the hotel. And we should also talk about this. This was like the big 40th anniversary film. So there was a lot of Easter eggs hidden throughout the film commemorating some of the other films. It's almost like I wish they worked harder on the structure of the film rather than the placing the Easter eggs. But I don't know. I think it's a big mistake to have him come back into the fold so quickly with MI6, because you take away the stakes. Because you kind of have a personal stake. He's got a personal stake now in finding out who the traitor was. And he's also tracking, I guess, Zhao. I guess those are like the two plot points, right? Once you take away like that he's rogue and that he's on his own, and you present that and say, hey, this is part of the story, and then you say, oh no, don't worry about that. It's kind of like the stakes are not raised, they're lowered. So it's like, it's okay, he's just on a regular mission now. That's a huge mistake. If you're going to go in that direction, you got to see it all the way through, like a License to Kill. Even though they play with that, at least License to Kill goes through with it, you know. Well, I know. I don't want to. Okay, go ahead.
My counterpoint would be like License to Kill kind of sees it through till the last frame.
Yeah,
and then they go, oh, never mind that stuff. At least this one probably had the self-awareness to know, you know, we're gonna pull him back into fold. We might as well just do it here. We've done enough with it.
I don't agree with that. You got to go all the way. We'll
put it this way. I think the whole rogue thing is kind of sort of overblown in a way in this. See, it's almost like for you the mistake was to bring it back in. My thing was almost like the whole rogue thing was sort of a mistake, so they just sort of course correct halfway through.
No, you know what they do, and I'll be completely honest with you. I think they got scared at that point. And they said, no, we need to go in a more traditional direction.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. They kind of ran with their tail between their legs, and they went into a more traditional Goldfinger kind of plot. That's exactly what they did.
See, I guess...
Or it might have been like something... I'm sorry to interrupt, but it might be something like, you know, Pierce Brosnan says, I want more dramatic stuff. So they're like, what can we do? Yeah, that too. And then maybe they threw that in the beginning and then said, well, here, now we'll get to the regular stuff. Yeah. I don't know. It could be any number of things.
Yeah. So one of the things that always stood out with me with this is you know, when Bond is... You're talking about the conversation with Bond and M. And Bond starts going like, you know, I didn't want to get traded. I'd rather die in prison than let him out. I'd be like, then let who out? This guy that you met for 5 seconds who didn't do anything? Like, I mean, if you're going to build him up, like, I mean, they sort of say like, oh, he blew up something or other and whatever. And Bond's like, oh, I'd rather die in prison. Like, yeah, but you didn't tell us anything about this guy. He's some flunky that just showed up for a second, got his face blown up. Now suddenly he's the worst thing in the world. Well, if he's the worst thing in the world, you got to tell us why. You know, you can't just
Well, he's a terrorist. I mean, they have. I think there's something in the dialogue where they talk about that.
He tried to blow up a summit between South Korea and China. Took out 3 Chinese agents before he was caught.
Yeah, M says something like after he got out, he bombed something, and then Bond says that. But yeah, I like I said, you have to give us more than that. And they kind of do that a lot. Like Tomorrow Never Dies. Oh, this guy, he was responsible for the Tokyo subway attack. All right, well that's something. But again, I'm not seeing. I mean, look at Spectre. Spectre does the whole thing about the whole thread of information, and I sit throughout that whole movie. I'm like, I don't feel it. I can't feel that. So don't tell me this guy Zhao is now the worst thing in the world, and Bond would love to rot in prison as opposed to let this guy out. That made no sense to me. So it's almost like
we didn't even get the jinx yet.
Your mama.
Yeah. So right, seriously, we haven't even really gotten to the halfway point where things really do derail, and I'm already kind of like just ripping it to shreds. I will say this: the scene where he does escape from the prison and he walks into when he walks in the lobby of the hotel. I mean, that to me is great. They play the Bond theme in the background. He says, "My usual sleep, please." He doesn't act like he's not apologizing. He's not hiding. Just struts on in, like. That was cool. I like that. It's probably my one part in the movie I really like.
I'd say
Spoiler alert.
I'd say that the movie starts to go downhill as soon as Toby Stevens appears. That's when the movie stops to when he literally skydives in.
Yeah.
Your movie's in trouble. You're skydiving into trouble.
Yeah.
That's the point. That's the point where the movie derails when he enters the picture.
Well, actually, and here's another thing, by the way. Almost in conjunction with what you're saying about that, when Bond leaves Cuba and he's got his contact there, total mistake. That whole the contact in Cuba, Raul, I guess his name is.
Right.
He should have been helping Bond along the way.
This is the same old song, right? And I agree with you 100%, but it's like they always have this and then they blow it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he should have been like another Columbo, another Karen Bay, etc. Draco. This should have been one of those kinds of characters. And even if Bond leaves him, I would have liked to have seen the guy show up later. Something. But we get to know this character, and then just, bye, we're done. And then it's like a different movie.
Well, that's the thing. Like there's a different. As soon as Gustav Graves makes his entrance, it's a different movie. That's the thing. It's two halves of two uneven movies.
Yeah, right. I mean, and then he comes in, you get the sword fighting scene, just kind of don't forget the Madonna scene, which I love to kind of. Every time we're making a reference about double entendres that are just really on the nose.
So, since we're on the subject of Madonna, what do you think of the title song?
I've always had a love-hate relationship with this one. When I first heard it, I literally remember hearing it for the very first time and thinking, no, that can't be it. Like, that must be like, that has to be like the remix version, the club version, and then we'll hear the real. Nope, that was it. So at first I hated it. Then as time went on, I started to.
Eat an apple first and then eat.
Alexa, shut up. So I hated it at first. Then after a while, I kind of grew to love it. I really did like it a lot. I listened to it pretty regularly. There was that extended Vegas mix, whatever they called it.
Yes. That's like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
They actually use that at the end titles.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I liked it a lot. I don't listen to it as much now as I did, but so like I said, kind of a love-hate thing with that one. What about you?
Same here. I actually like some of Madonna's stuff, I'll be honest, and I'm probably have to give away my man card now, but I do like some of them. And I think that this song actually fits the vibe of the film, believe it or not. And I don't think her and Arnold were really collaborating that much, but his score is kind of similar to the sound of her title song, if that makes any sense. I think. So
yeah.
I think it does fit it fits the movie. It does.
Yes. The collaboration works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it does.
Whether you like it or not.
Right. Yeah. For better or for worse, for better or for worse, it fits with the tone of the film. I agree with that.
I had that upside down. Here we go. This reminds me. And by the way, Madonna did not put. This is another La La Land release here of Die
cool.
Another Day. Here's the thing from this. This is from the liner notes. It sort of gives you a little window into what Tamarai was thinking about. And he's talking about filming a James Bond film. You really don't know until you're in there how grueling it can be. You have to work that much harder to convince a much younger audience, to bring them in and have them see it as an acceptable action picture for their peer group. See, now I think his thinking is wrong, because I think that you shouldn't be making the film for like faceless blobs of young kids. Make the film for yourself. Make it your vision of what you want to see in a James Bond movie. That's all you have is like your personal your idea. When you're second guessing what other people want, I don't think that's a good directing choice, personally.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was a very telling remark from him.
Yeah.
Of where we are in this film and why we have the speed jumps and everything that was very in vogue at the time this was made. You know?
Yeah. Right. All those camera tricks are so annoying because honestly, it's so obvious that they were like done in post. Like you didn't film it to be in slow motion, so that's why it has that jerky. Yeah.
I don't mind post production, fiddling if it works. It's fine.
Yeah. But you're absolutely right. I've heard interviews with him, and you could see that he was trying to make a very adolescent film, and that's kind of what it feels like. It feels like it's done for adolescent teenagers with limited attention spans. I mean, all the Brosnans have been sort of low attention span theater, but this one's the worst.
This one takes the cake. Huh?
Yeah.
I guess we gotta talk about Halle Berry and Jinx now, huh?
Your mama.
Yeah, Halle Berry and
I
Jinx.
personally, I think that they give. I think the character's not written very well. They give her. She's like the antithesis of, they build the character through lines and dialogue.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make for an engaging character ultimately. I think she does. I think Halle Berry does an admirable job with what she's given. I'm not on the Halle Berry bash wagon on this. That's right, mister.
On behalf of the bash wagon, I have some things to say.
Please don't hate me. No, I honestly, it's my personal opinion. It's not my favorite character, but I don't hate it either,
Yeah, okay. Here comes the bash wagon. I've always thought Halle Berry is wildly overrated. I've never really understood the
Oscar-winning Halle Berry.
Good Lord. I mean, the best acting I think she did was when she actually accepted her Oscar.
Ooh,
Yeah,
ouch.
Zing. I've never got her. Her deliveries are just so on the nose. When I saw the first trailer for John Wick 3, the second she shows up and delivers her line,
Nothing's ever just a conversation with you, John.
when is things ever not complicated with you, John? I was like, oh man, there it is. Ugh.
I'll tell you something though. In John Wick 3, I was like, I don't know if I
Her
want
action scenes were good. She was
I think
very
she was
good
fine in the whole
action-wise.
thing. I did not have a problem with the delivery or anything. She was a pleasant surprise in that film.
I will say she was probably better in John Wick than I've ever seen her before, but she was very good in that. Not very good, but she was good, and her action was great. I mean, I heard that she had trained for a long time for those action scenes, and it showed. So I will not fault her for that. But honestly, you're absolutely right. She's got nothing to work with. It's a character that is. I mean, it's just one quip. I mean, the whole movie is just quips. Like, there's no actual dialogue in this movie. It's just quip, quip, quip.
It is. That's bad. And that's not her fault.
Well, it's not her fault. I mean, right. I mean, they're giving her lines like, yo mama.
Your mama.
And you're expecting people to go, oh, wow, she's cool. No, like, wow, is that bad? Like, I mean, are you kidding me?
Is that wow that's bad or zow that's bad?
Where that. I mean, it is just shockingly bad how bad. I mean, and then that line is bad enough. And then she follows up with,
And she told me to tell you she's really disappointed in you.
"Oh, good Lord, that line is so cringy." I mean, seriously, talk about writing for 14-year-olds. Good Lord, is this bad?
Peer groups. You got to appeal to your peer groups.
Good Lord. So, I mean, it's just terrible. I mean, this character is just dismal.
I agree with you. I really do. Yeah, I think you and I are not going to be joining the Halle Berry, Toby Stevens fan clubs anytime soon, I guess. I don't know. I feel kind of, a lot of times I feel bad about like hitting the actors hard because I feel like they're there to be told what to do. You've hired me for a certain job, and this is my skill, and I can do whatever you want. I could play it soft. I could play it hard. So to like blaming the actor a lot of times, unless the actor has is actually running the set. Then it's kind of hard to bash the actor. But yeah, I get what you're saying, and then I feel kind of bad just bashing the actors. I do.
Well, put it this way: why not?
I'm also trying to get across my honest opinion.
Yeah. Well, why don't we do this? Because one of the shining stars, I think, in this film is Rosamund Pike.
Oh yeah, she's great, isn't it? Yeah, that's a breakthrough. And it's funny. She goes through that. She kind of goes through the same bad script and dialogue, but she's able to. Yeah, maybe you're right. She kind of. She comes out She comes out a little cleaner on the other end. Yeah, she sure does. Doesn't she?
Yeah, I mean she's getting really bad dialogue. Like the scene where it's.
I take it Mr. Bond's been explaining his Big Bang Theory.
Oh, yeah, I think I got the thrust of it.
I see.
His Big Bang Theory, really? Again, cringe.
Right,
I mean, this whole movie is just cringe. I mean, it's just 2 hours of cringe.
I guess she's the bright light in all this darkness. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and her character is awful. I mean, seriously, you want to talk about? I mean, we've joked before about in terms of the story, how Bond going to bed with his leading lady too soon can ruin things or whatever, or the character isn't served well by that. This has got to be the worst ever. She's like, "No, Bond, I'll never sleep with you. I'll never sleep with you. Goodbye, dress." It takes 2 seconds for her to just drop her dress, and now they're having sex for no reason.
You could say she's manipulating. She's. I get where you're coming from.
Well, she is. Yeah, I have no problem with that. But if that's the case, then boy is Bond an idiot, because, I mean, if as the audience you're kind of going like, wait, what? Why does Bond fall for it? That's pretty dumb. So, yeah, I mean, seriously, she literally, and he said something like, you better stay here to keep up the charade of being lovers. Okay, dress goes away. I'm like, well, you didn't, they're not spying in the room. You don't have to actually have sex to keep the charade going.
Right.
I mean, just, oh boy, just terrible. But, I got no problem. Like I said, I mean, she's a double agent. So she's going to bed Bond to get into his confidence. I mean, she literally takes the bullets out of his gun when he's not looking. Okay. But again, doesn't make Bond look very smart if he doesn't catch on.
Yeah. Did they ever I wonder if they ever had a thing like a triple agent. Is that possible? I guess you could be a triple agent.
Just Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. What's his face goes back and forth 26 times.
Oh yeah. Mac. Was it Mac or something?
Mac,
right? Yeah. I'm with you. I'm not with you. I'm with you. I'm not with you. This guy,
Good Lord, was that terrible?
Yeah. Oh my God.
So, all right, listen. So we're sort of in the second half of the film now. Let's talk about all the crap.
Yeah, we didn't even get to the bad part yet. We didn't even get to the invisible car.
You know what? I think that for me is probably the moment where the film just totally goes off the rails and never comes back.
That being said, some of the use of the invisible car isn't terrible. Like the one scene where the guy's riding the ski. I guess he's riding a jet. He's riding a snow ski, or what do they call that thing? And he kind of hits the car because you can see it. Yeah. That's kind of a neat moment. And I actually, truth be told, when it comes to action scenes, I actually kind of like the final face-off with Zhao inside the Ice Palace. And he uses the invisible car for that. I guess I think it's David Arnold that really does the heavy lifting for me in that scene.
Sure.
Because I really like the cue. But the cue, you get it?
Yeah.
But
why not? The Scott's Comedy Hour.
But
you're right. I mean, they at least do use it for. I mean, of course, there's times I'm just like, wait, what? Like they tell you that it hides cameras on one side, projects what it sees. Which, I mean, by the way, I don't remember if it was Top Gear, but there was one show that basically did that. They sort of did the Bond cars, and they built they had just like a box truck, and they did that same thing where they took the cameras and put it on one side.
If I turn this switch here, everything changes. Invisibility cloak, disend. I have simply vanished. Yep, totally transparent.
And they were like, "Look, it's like we're invisible. You can barely see us." And like, meanwhile, it's like just totally obvious. But yeah, I mean,
I guess there's something about that. I mean, a lot of people go with the gadgets, but this one really just like struck a nerve with most people. They're like, "That's impossible."
Well, of course, yeah. I mean, it's. I mean, like light doesn't reflect off of it. Like there's no shadow underneath the car. Like none of it. And then there's a scene later when Bond is hiding behind the car, but he's invisible. Well, but you just said that's not how it works. If Bond is behind the car, you would see him in front of the car. Yeah, just so dumb. I mean, that was just beyond stupid. And I honestly, I can recall people saying, "Yeah, but there's like real technology that they're working on." That like, I don't care. Like, you can't. It would never, ever, ever. I don't care. Even if we were like 100 years in the future, I guarantee you'll never have an invisible car like that again. Like it does. Like it. How does it cover up its own shadow? How does it not have light bouncing off? How does it not? I mean, it did make no sense at all.
You're gonna love that upcoming remake of The Invisible Man. I'll tell you. Actually, Zhao, before I forget, Zhao has one of my favorite punchlines.
How's that for a punchline?
Well, I just gave it away. But he has one of my favorite lines in the film. After hearing all these bad quips from Brosnan, Halle Berry, and he gets Brosnan gets punched he punches Brosnan in the gut, and he's like, "How's that for a punchline?" And I was kind of like, "Yeah, Zhao." Yeah. By that time, I was like, I was on Zhao's side.
Oh my god! By the way, I can't. This is another thing I can't let go. That's that scene where Brosnan shows up and he says to Toby Stevens,
"So you live to die another day."
And you went, "Oh, there's the title of the film." They missed such a good opportunity in the beginning of the film, when they're doing the trade, when they take Bond and he's having one last talk with the general, and the general. I mean, they're laying the groundwork that the general's not a bad guy,
right?
And when Bond starts to walk. And as soon as Bond turns around and realizes, "Oh, I'm not getting murdered. Something's happening," the general should have said, "You live to die another day, Mr. Bond." That's when they should have used that line, because that to me was sort of the point of the film. Like the whole reason why that title works is because Bond survived the captivity in the beginning. He didn't get killed. And then he could have said it a second time to Toby Stevens.
That would have been awesome.
That's how that should have worked. I can't believe they missed that opportunity.
I'm 100% in agreement with you. Nicely done.
They need us in this scripting room. We'll fix these.
Oh my god! You thought Purvis and Wade got punched around? Forget about it.
Seriously.
No, I have to say I admire even this. I mean, this movie's a mess, but it is tough in that writer's chair. I mean, you're staring at a blank piece of blank screen, blank piece of paper, whatever it is you do, trying to come up with something, and especially in this Bond. I mean, you kind of can't do the same screenwriting rules you would do on a regular film with emotion. You know, they're trying to do it in the Craig era, but it's really tough to. You got to deal with emotional journeys and the actual journey and the subtext, and it's you really have to have your stuff together, honestly.
Yeah. Here's a weird casting choice: Michael Madsen. I remember when I saw him.
I wonder if they cast him because they were thinking in the way back of their heads, we're going to have that Jinx spinoff. Remember? They talked about the Jinx movie?
Yes,
and
which frankly,
they decided to do Catwoman instead, or Halle Berry decided to do Catwoman instead. It's like, ooh.
What can I do for you?
White Russian. No ice. Hold the vodka. Hold the Kahlua.
I actually probably would have preferred the Jinx movie, but but yeah, no, kind of weird. Ultimately, round peg in a square hole kind of a thing. I love Michael Madsen, especially in the Tarantino stuff. He's great.
Yep.
It just didn't work here for some reason. It could have been like a cool, I was thinking maybe he might have made him a cool Felix Leiter in the Brosnan era.
Actually,
he would have been kind of cool in that role. But here he's really just an obstacle. Or I don't even know how much of an obstacle he is. But
no, you're absolutely no. He's a round peg in a square hole. He doesn't really. There's something so unfitting about him there, and you're absolutely right. Felix Leiter, like him with a cigarette dangling out of his mouth, I totally could have seen that.
Yeah.
But yeah, him here, he's again because the rest of the film is getting so cartoony.
I would have rather seen him as Gustav Graves. that would have been interesting.
There you go.
You could have had him, Mr. Bond. Yeah, and the scenes would have been a lot more mellow. Wouldn't have that, that upper lip
right
sneer.
So we should also talk about the other elephant in the room, the infamous.
We didn't even get to that. Yeah.
One of the problems I got with that, by the way, I mean, aside from the obvious, we'll talk about it, but one of the big problems I have with that is kind of like similar to the mistake they made in GoldenEye when they opened with the great bungee jump, which is obviously practically done.
Right.
Then later, he does another jump off the ledge to get to the plane. So the problem is that if you just showed us what this looks like to do it for real. So now the comparison is really obvious. Here they did a similar thing. I think what they were trying to do is establish that Bond knows how to surf in the beginning so that when they do it later, it kind of makes some logical sense because Bond should know how to do this. But again, you showed me real surfing. Now you're showing me total CGI nonsense surfing.
You know what's ironic too? In the original DVD release of Die Another Day, which I actually have back there, but I kept it because there's special features on there that they haven't carried over to the Blu-ray era. And one of the features I remember very distinctly on there is that they have one all about that surfing scene. And they're legitimately talking about how great it is, and everybody's giving each other high fives and how great, and totally. And this is back in 2002. I'm like, no, it looks terrible, But I guess sometimes you lose your subjectivity after looking at something again and again and again.
Yeah,
that's the only thing I can think of. But they were pleased as punch about it. And it's funny that it hasn't carried over to the other.
I remember them. I remember them running ads in Variety.
Uh-huh.
They wanted to be nominated for best special effects based on that. They were running ads in the trades saying, for your consideration, best special effects. I could, look. I mean, it was 2002. This stuff is not easy. I'm not, but. Again, it's sort of, if you know what you're doing script-wise is that over the top that you're going to have to pull a series of rabbits out of hats to make it look right.
Also, in their defense, you do go to, especially nowadays, which is the case, you go to different effect houses because, you have limited time before release to get everything done. So you split the work up among a bunch of different effect houses.
Yeah.
Results can be wildly different, plus, time is a factor and so forth. So, and back then, I'm sure it was much more limited than it is today.
Yeah.
But yeah, it unfortunately doesn't look convincing at all.
Yeah. But this is one of those moments, seriously, like this is sort of back in the day. I'm a full blown hardcore fan. And like my younger brother would go, not a fan like me, but he'll go to the new James Bond movie when it comes out.
Right.
And then we'll we'll see each other on the weekend or whatever, and he'll say to me, he's like, why is it every time I go to a Bond movie nowadays, there's always one scene that you're just sort of cringing, going like, what? Like, for Tomorrow Never Dies, it's the helicopter on its side, you know, and you're kind of going, ugh, what, you know? For this one, it's this, and it's like there's always one scene that just goes way carried away, doesn't make any sense.
Well, it's sort of like now we're all of a sudden we're a long way away from Timothy Dalton hanging out to the back of that plane, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to see, and I think a lot of old school Bond fans want to see. We want to see the real stunt work.
Yes.
And when we see that, it's just. Yeah,
it's. I mean, it's obvious.
It's almost like a betrayal.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I know you can do that, but
right. Yeah, I mean that's exactly it. I mean, this was the first time you saw like a full blown, complete CGI.
Yeah, and that
scene
was
in a Bond film, and it was
CGI.
so out of place. I mean, and I think this is why they make a major course correction in the next one. You know.
Yes. You know, when I was going through this film. I was about halfway through, you know, I was like probably around that surfing scene. I said, hang in there, Scott. The next film you get to watch is Casino Royale. Hang in there. You can do it, man. I guess I got, you know, we were talking about everything. I gave Tomorrow Never Dies a 3. So I'm going to give this a 3 as well. Yeah, I did not care for it. It doesn't work. The changing the structure, the changing of lowering the stakes, almost in the middle of the film, bad idea, and ultimately characters are very thin and too much quippy lines. So this is not very good. I'll give it a 3.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I feel like I've tried. One of the things about doing these reviews is you try to be pretty even-handed and, you know, talk about the good parts and talk about the bad parts. At the end of the day, you know, I wonder if my score really reflects everything I said, but I'm giving this sucker a 1. This is sitting right next to Diamonds Are Forever. It's my only other 1 in this franchise. It's really dismal. Like I said, I think people think that the beginning part is really great before the second part is not so great. I think people are really generous when they say the first part is great. I think it's okay, and it's got some decent parts. But yeah, overall, I mean, it's just a schlock fest. And what's particularly bad is when it sets itself up. Oh, look, Bond is in captivity. This is going to be real hard-hitting, realistic, gritty. No, it's going to be comic book fluff, silly, and I think the worst part is the dialogue is just so dreadful. It's dialogue. It's just a series of. It's one quip after another, and that's not how you build characters. I mean, and not every Bond film has to be, you know, a realistic character study or whatever. But you know, but then you just go way too extreme on just. I mean, this is just a big old pile of cotton candy. This movie. So yeah, just giving it a 1.
Worst, I just think Toby Stevens is Gustav Graves. I just don't like the performance. It's way over the top, and he's always playing. Every scene he plays the same way, and with a little sneer, and it just doesn't work for me.
Worst part, I kind of feel like, you know, there's a lot of probably more interesting things I could come up with for this, but I'm just going with the parasurfing scene. I mean, it's just silly nonsense, and it really just sort of shows where they are with this film. That it's not even just bad special effects. It's them trying to service an adolescent audience, like an audience of 12 to 14-year-old boys, just giving them like shiny, fluffy silliness, and calling it a movie. It's just awful. Anybody watching that, I mean, I don't think I've ever met any Bond fan that doesn't cringe at that scene. So yeah, I'm gonna go with that.
I'm gonna go with the opening sequence. I think that's probably the best scene in the film. It's not as good as some of the other pre-title sequences we've had, but at least at this point, you don't realize that what lies ahead. So and I like the hovercraft sequence, so that's really good.
Best part, I'm tempted to say the title, because I think the title is one of the best post-Fleming titles. And I like the Raoul character. I like where they were sort of headed with that, and then they just drop that and move on. I'm going to give it to the scene where Bond struts into the hotel he's soaking wet, still wearing the pajamas. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't apologize. He doesn't make excuses. He says, "My usual suite, please." And I kind of feel like if there's one scene that kind of sums up James Bond pretty well, it's that. I just found my Circa 2002 iPod. It's got the Die Another Day app on it. Yeah, I wonder what this thing does.
James Bond.